Welcome to Seattle Sports Union Weekly Live Show, SSU Live. Tonight we have a very special playoff episode. We are talking Seahawks, the NFL, and college playoffs. Also, the SSU team will set some 2016 expectations for our Seattle teams. I'm your host, Abraham DeWeese. With me is Mr. No Gimmick Needed, Matt Paige, and Ian, the Blessed Tenor, Loney. Welcome, guys. It's an exciting time in the NFL and for our Seahawks. We have a game against Arizona today. And
what that was?
Was it a game? Was it a scrimmage?
It was an exciting event.
It was a preseason game?
Yeah, it was an exciting preseason.
It was a good scrimmage.
Blue versus green?
Well, as you guys know, it was 36-6. I actually stopped counting and watched G.I. Joe.
The score became irrelevant by halftime. It really didn't matter anymore.
And there was a much better game on the other channel.
There was.
But it was great to see Russell Wilson set some records.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And Ian,
4,000 yards.
4,000 yards.
4,000 yards. Broke Dave Craig's team record for touchdowns set, 1984 or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, insane year for a offense that isn't any good, so to speak. Yes, for a rushing offense, yes.
A power rushing team. Well, you know what? Actually, I want to talk about the rushing, Ian. Christine Michael actually had a great set of runs. He actually busted through on the Cardinal defense. Was that a lazy Cardinal defense, or is there something to Christine Michael?
I think it's a combination of the two. I mean, he had 102 yards on just 17 carries today, and honestly, I think it's a sign of he's really he's taking advantage of his second chance, I think. And I think until Lynch comes back, he's going to be the main guy going forward into the playoffs. Hopefully Lynch is back next week. We all hope, but you know how this thing is going. It could be Michael heading down the stretch, and I'm actually feeling kind of okay with that.
Excellent. What about you, Matt? Do you think Michael can do it if Lynch doesn't come back next week?
You know, it's tough to say. It depends really on who we're going to be playing. As we're talking right now, of course, the final game is still being played. We don't know who's going to win that and decide which seed we're going to be playing. But you know, I think Michael, he's shown that he's learned. When he first came to the team, I think he was a little bit arrogant and he expected to be handed things.
Yeah.
He didn't realize that this is a team where everyone is passionate. They're chosen. The players are picked because of their passion for the game and their passion for trying to constantly improve themselves. And I think he kind of hit the wall there, and his circuit around the league kind of taught him.
He gets it now. He's ready and he's hungry. What else, Ian, did you find from this offense that you can glean as a positive? Because that Rams game was awful as much as this game was amazing. What did you see improvement-wise?
Well, there were a couple things. Wilson looked terrific today. I mean, he's looked terrific for the last half of the season, really. I mean, he was 19 for 28. He threw 3 more touchdowns. He threw them to people like Tuka Wafu and Chase Kaufman. Who is this guy? I think they got him off the street last week. And then the pass of Jermaine Kearse was just a thing of beauty. That little rainbow drop in between the zone, it was just unbelievable. So
not place it better.
I mean, the guy's been off his head ever since the first Arizona game. Actually, I think it was.
Yeah.
Was the last time he wasn't very good. I mean, even the Ram game, he had no protection, but he was still okay in it.
How much is this Glowinski and Alvin Bailey playing rather than the people they replaced?
I think
Russell Okung.
Honestly, those guys are just hurt. I think the offensive line was playing pretty good before those guys got hurt. I know Okung has been pretty solid the second half of the year. If he could just not hold, he would be great. But and not false start and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I think the offensive line has really gelled. Once again, Cable has proved me wrong. I thought the offensive line was like a conglomeration of a mess at the beginning of the year. And for the first half of the year, I was right. And then he's coached them all up, and now they seem to be pretty a solid group, honestly. Beaten
and battered last week, Matt, by Todd Gurley. What happened here on defense? What did they come to play or what?
They brought it. I mean, I think they were embarrassed. I think they were playing embarrassed after last year's just utter collapse.
Last week's
utter collapse, and they just brung it. They were tired of people questioning them. I mean, after last week, everyone was like, do they really have it? Are they really as scary as advertised? Are they really as big a threat? Should we watch out for them? And yes, they are. They are as scary. They are as good as advertised. That front line was brilliant. I do think it was partly due to the fact that since the last time we played Arizona, they lost Chris Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
which added a whole other dimension to the running game. So the rushing attack not as good as
You're
as it
saying
used to
David
be.
Johnson is not as good as Chris Johnson.
David Johnson's been,
David
been
Johnson
pretty good.
is not as
His
good as
stats
Chris
are
Johnson.
really good.
His stats are pretty good, but he is not
Okay.
CJ2K. Remember CJ2K? Yeah, that's Chris Johnson.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is I don't think that the rushing attack was quite as strong as it used to be, and we were playing embarrassed and wanted to make.
Yeah.
A
They were
statement.
angry. They were
We
angry.
were playing angry and embarrassed, and we wanted to make a statement.
Okay.
And it showed.
Well, we're about to launch into the playoffs, and we don't know who we're going to play yet. Could be the Vikings, could be the Redskins. I want to ask you guys, what has this season been? Has it? I'm going to give you three choices: fail, succeed. Has this been a failure, a success, or has it gone along as expected? Matt, what have you thought about the Seahawks these last 16 games?
I think it's an incredible success considering the adversity we've faced along the way. The losing Lynch, then losing discovering Rawls, then losing Rawls. Losing Jimmy Graham, who was going to be such a huge part of this, and then the other guys stepped up, and then Luke Wilson gets down with a concussion, and then McCoy's hurt, and then we've got this new guy that just appeared out of nowhere today. Was Kaufman, who I'm sure absolutely everyone was with me when they went, who? when they said he caught the touchdown pass. Great guy, great to see him get an opportunity finally. He bounced around the league a bit, but anyway, I think as far as the adversity we've faced this year, I think this is an incredible success. I think it shows how much heart and how much of a team we are. We've come together. We've withstood all these things. People keep counting us out because we don't have Lynch, because we don't have Rawls, we don't have Jimmy Graham.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
we keep taking
What
them
about you, Matt? Or what about you, Ian?
I think to a certain extent the season, as good as they've been the second half, I think in a large degree this season is still a failure if it's anything short of a Super Bowl. I think there's just too much talent on the team. And yes, you're right. You're absolutely right, Matt. They have dealt with the injuries really well. But the fact of the matter is, this team started 2-4. I mean,
Yeah.
they dug. The offense looked terrible the first half of the year. They had no synergy. The offensive line couldn't block anybody. I mean, they just couldn't score any points. The defense was getting shredded by top tier quarterbacks, and they kept blowing fourth quarter leads. And honestly, they dug themselves this hole, and they spent the entire second half of the year just getting to 10-6. Now this is a Super Bowl quality team here, and we're talking 10-6. They're going to have to win 3 road games to get to the Super Bowl. It's frankly not going to happen, and it would take a miracle. And they've dug this hole for themselves. So as good as they've been, I say overall the season is a failure.
It's been odd. This has been odd. Just in this conversation alone, when Matt was talking, I'm like, yeah, it has been a success, man. It's totally been a success. And then the devil on my other shoulder, Ian's like, no, this is unacceptable, and it's terrible, and yeah, it's terrible. Ugh. But I mean, this has been a tale of multiple seasons within a season. I mean, you took a look at that 2-4 record, and it was just a complete disaster by Tom Cable for filling out an offensive line full of defensive linemen.
Defensive linemen, yeah.
And then you take a look at the argument that the front office gotten with Cam Chancellor, and it looked like management had just completely failed on all levels, and the players, the inmates are running the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
But the success comes in, well, maybe some of those players like Marshawn Lynch don't need to be on the team. Maybe Jimmy Graham doesn't need to be a starter. Maybe there are younger and hungrier players, like your Thomas Rawls and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so guys, we're going to roll into the next game. We still don't know who it is. I'm going to actually have Matt check and see if we're playing the Vikings or the
Last I heard the Vikings,
Redskins.
I think, but yeah.
Last year it was Vikings. Okay, but while you're looking that up, Matt, I want to ask you, Ian, what is the weakness on this team if they go in and face, let's just say, Vikings or the Redskins?
Well, particularly the Redskins, I think their weakness, if they have one right now, is still the secondary. They've been much better of late. Obviously, Sherman's having a great year. But I think particularly against tight ends and interior stuff, they still have some issues in their zone scheme that can be exposed by a good quarterback. And the Redskins have can't think of his
Kirk
name right.
Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, yes, thank you. Kirk Cousins has been playing very well in the second half
Yeah.
of the season, and they've won their last 4 games. They're the hottest team in the NFC right now, and I think that offense could possibly expose them a little bit.
Just got a message from our director, Kevin, and it looks like it's still too close to tell. A couple of minutes left. The game's only a 3-point difference.
7-point difference.
7-point difference. A touchdown lead, and looks like Green Bay's got the ball. More to come.
Maybe they'll tie.
What's the weakness on this team? What's the weakness on the Seahawks team? Not when they get to the teams like the Carolina Panthers or the Cardinals, because they make a lot of teams look bad, but against whomever we play next week.
As admirably as Christine Michaels stepped in, I still have to say it's the rushing game. It's the rushing attack. We don't have the ferocity and the intensity at the running back position without Rawls or Lynch, and that adds a whole other dimension and takes so much pressure off Russell Wilson. It takes so much pressure off the offensive line and the receivers. It makes the whole operation run so much better, and I do think that is our point of weakness. We're going to hear on Monday, tomorrow, if Marshawn is available. The word is it's all looking good so far, but we'll see. They're really hoping to get in, and if he gets in, I think we're a whole other team.
For betting purposes, actually not betting.
Betting's illegal.
Betting's illegal. We don't do that in Washington State.
That, and
We do
Washington
not condone
State,
that kind of
does
activity.
not happen. But if you were to set a line, what's the difference in the line between having Marshawn Lynch and having Christine Michael? Is that a 7-point difference?
Oh, I think.
What do you think?
3 points. 3 points.
3 points? You think it's that little?
No,
Yeah.
I'd bump it maybe as much as 9.
In a point spread?
Yeah, big. It's a big jump.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Okay, I think.
I think Lynch makes that big of an impact.
So without
Lynch
Lynch
is a touchdown worth more.
Without Lynch and Rawls, the Seahawks have been getting over 400 yards a game on offense. They've been lighting up the scoreboard. You think that's just going to grind to a halt?
Well, at some point,
because they're facing. I remember one of those teams was Minnesota that they shredded. I mean.
Yeah, but at some point you have to run on 4th and 1, and if I don't think you can't give it to Tukuafu, and I don't think you can give it to Christine Michael on a 4th and 1.
Well, they get that rushing touchdown to Bryce Brown in short yardage. That was a pretty nice little run there. He's a pretty good short yardage back. I mean, they mix it up a little bit. I think as long as they can run well enough to keep them honest, I think that and Wilson gets time in the pocket like he has been. I think they're going to be just fine.
Well, then again, what do I know? It was 2nd and 1 in the Super Bowl. Then they went ahead and passed.
Right,
so.
Exactly. And that was with Lynch, so there you go.
It's still too soon, guys.
Too soon for that? Okay.
Still too soon.
What's the playoffs of the next year, Matt?
Still
Get
too
over
soon.
it.
Still too soon.
Get over it.
Until
All
they
right.
win another Super Bowl.
Well,
It's too
Still
soon.
upset about it.
Well, gentlemen, it's been an exciting time in the NFL, and it's been an exciting time for our Seahawks and, of course, for us, the fans. We have to run to break, but when we come back, we'll talk more about the NFL playoffs. Stay tuned with SSU Live. Welcome back to Seattle Sports Union, the best in Seattle sports commentary. This segment is brought to you by Five Low Sports. Five Low, the originator of the world-famous arm socks. Winter's cold, and so are you. Warm right up to some of the best beanies, scarves, and other toasty gear. Be sure to visit fivelow.com after this show. All right, guys, we have a couple of people out there that want to say hello, and we want to say hello back to them. Hello, Gabriel Perez, and hello, Christy. Christy has actually agreed with you, Ian. She thinks you're right and that
I
you're
am
wrong.
right, so.
Well, she's wrong. She's entitled to her own opinion, but her opinion is wrong.
What I want to hear from you guys is I want to hear about the two most powerful teams in the NFC, if not the entire NFL. And earlier this week, we assigned you guys Ian to the offense, Matt to the defense. I want to hear about the Carolina Panthers. They're going to take a break. They're the hottest team going. Ian, what do you see from this offense that you love?
Well, Cam Newton, obviously. I mean, he's going to win the MVP this year. He's been out of his mind all season. He's had the best season of his career. He's done it without a great receiving core, honestly. And honestly, without that great.
Ted Ginn Jr.
Ted Ginn Jr.'s pretty good. Greg Olson's obviously good. He's okay. But I mean, it's a decent receiving core, but it's not like groundbreaking or anything.
It's pedestrian.
But I mean, he has the most combined touchdowns between passing and rushing in the league. He has a passer rating over 98, which is below some other quarterbacks we might know here in Seattle, but is still pretty darn good. and honestly, they've just been killing people all year, and it's just been consistency has been the name of their game all season.
Any problems with the injuries to Olsen and Jonathan Stewart?
From what I hear, the week off shouldn't be an issue for him.
Okay, all right. Matt, you love this defense. You love this Carolina Panthers defense.
I actually don't love it because we have to play against it. At some point, we might have to go through them.
Right.
So I don't love it. I think it's modeled almost kind of similar to Seattle's in how young and the young core, and they're building around it, and they're getting better and better and better every game. It's fun to watch how bad they destroy these offenses and how much they control the clock and control the teams. They've got I'm going to butcher his name, Kuechly?
Kuechly.
Yeah, Kuechly.
You know what?
You should know.
Boston College put out a really good linebacker whose first name is Luke and his last name is that name that I can't pronounce. And I should get credit for at least knowing that much. Who is the best linebacker in the game, if you ask me. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Best linebacker in the game. I love Bobby Wagner and I love Paige.
He's better than both of them.
He's better. Sorry. And then they've got Shaq Thompson. Who's getting more and more and more reps in the middle, and
that was something that
it's scary.
That was something that we discussed in a show about 6 months ago. Is Shaq Thompson the correct player to have on that team? It did not make sense. That defensive backfield was too crowded, and the linebacker core was too crowded. What have you seen from him that has made him what he is now?
He's what they're doing? They're doing like the Seahawks. We have one of the great things about our defense is that we have like 14 guys who rotate on the line. We have 14 guys who rotate we have like nobody on offense, but everyone on defense. And they do the same model. They just get all these guys in there. So they're getting Shaq all these reps, and he's developing and blossoming into one of the better linebackers / slot corners, hybrid players in the league.
Well, additionally, he's not having to play every down.
The pressure isn't there.
What is the difference between the Carolina defense and the Arizona defense?
Mostly age and experience, probably.
You got an older,
more experienced Cardinal defense. Now currently anchored by Dwight Freeney, who is still a massive load. He got 3 sacks last week.
The Colts were smart getting rid of him.
Yeah, he got 3 sacks last week, and the last time I counted, he only had 1 this week. He might have got another one before the end there.
Yeah, that's the thing.
He's getting $100,000 a sack now on his new contract. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did hear that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say about Arizona, just to completely ignore today's game because that's not who that team is.
No, they really aren't.
You'll see a different team in 2 weeks.
They did lose the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, but they've still got plenty of talent back there in the secondary. They were just they didn't show up.
So Arizona lost their defensive coordinator last year, Todd Bowles. They have who's their coordinator right now? The ex-linebacker. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they haven't really changed their defense.
They don't need to. I mean, it's working really well. They've got a great front line there, and they added Freeney to be the pass rush on the edge. And you know, the scary part was he was added just as a backup, and he's played so well. He's worked his way in. You know, I mean, in the secondary is one of the best in the game.
You got your Patrick Petersons of the world. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, Jefferson back there is pretty good too.
You got Justin Bethel, the other cornerback. He's really good too.
Yeah.
They pick on him, but hey, all he does is stop passing. By the way, want to say hello to Curly Hair Messiah. Thanks for joining us today. Ian, I would like you to take a look at the Arizona offense and tell me what makes this a Super Bowl contender.
Well, with the offense, it all starts with I said with Carolina that Cam Newton is going to be the MVP. Who I think the guy should be the MVP is probably Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
I think the guy is the difference between the Cardinal offense being top tier and between them being garbage, as we saw partially in the game today when he came out. But last year they started 9-1 before he got hurt, and then he got hurt and they win another game. So it's the same kind of thing. He was with him at the helm. They were the number one statistical offense in the NFL on the year, at least heading into this week. I don't know how it ended up this week, but they were the number one offense in the entire league. They've been lighting up the scoreboard all year long. The running game, regardless of who they put back up there, whether it's the first Johnson or now David Johnson. Chris Johnson got hurt earlier in the year. He was having a great season. They put David Johnson back there, and he's been great too, which shows great offensive line blocking up front. The receiving core is top-notch. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald has seen a nice resurgence in his career this year. John Brown has been phenomenal this year. Has led my fantasy team to many victories. And like I said, they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. They didn't show up today. That's not the team that they are. They were already into their bye week.
Didn't look like they were using a full playbook, to be honest. But you know, don't forget on offense as well. That offensive line is the culmination of 4 or 5 years of drafts. And they have
stealing
Mike Iwapudi.
The guy we mispronounced in one of our earlier videos.
Somewhere out there, there's
like
a 49er fan that hates us.
Very angry at us because we mispronounced
because
the last
we
name.
mispronounced Mike Iwapudi.
And
when you
have,
didn't you?
One other note, when you have an offense where Larry Fitzgerald is your number 3 wide receiver,
yes,
your Hall of Fame guaranteed top 3 of all time wide receivers, in my mind, is your 3rd wideout
/ blocking tight end
/ whatever they need to be, slot receiver. It's incredible.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, that's a great offense.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna try to find out here in a minute who has won that Packers and Vikings game. But I want to ask you, before we find that score, who's the best of this bunch, Matt? Who's the best of the Packers, the Vikings, and the Redskins?
Oh, that's a real tough question. It depends on which Packers team shows up.
And whether you're talking about week 4 or now.
I'm talking about next week.
Next week.
If we go in, whomever we play.
Next week, Washington Redskins.
Are they hot right now?
I agree. They're the hottest team right now.
Absolutely.
Out of the 3.
What are you afraid of?
What am I afraid of?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been lights out the whole second half of the season. He's been very underrated, gone under the radar. He's done very well for them.
This just in, looks like the Packers just threw an interception.
Yeah, 2 minutes left.
2 minutes left.
It's now the Vikings ball.
20-13 Vikings. Possible. So with the win against the Vikings,
yep,
Seahawks are headed to
Minnesota.
No.
Yeah, if Minnesota won, they're going to Minnesota. Because Minnesota won the division.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're quite done, we're gonna have a conversation.
We're gonna do the math here. Sorry.
I don't fear the Packers as of these last 4 or 5 weeks. They look terrible. And there is now another update.
Teddy Bridgewater just fumbled. with 2 minutes at the 2 minute warning.
Sorry,
We'll be having a running commentary on the
Sorry,
rest of the
fans,
game.
we
Yes.
did
So the Packers have the ball on the 20 from Minnesota.
All right. So we spoke too soon. So if the game's a tie,
Hi, we play Green Bay.
we play Green
That's
Bay,
right,
which would be
that's
the
right.
ideal
If
situation.
Green Bay wins, we go to Washington.
Washington.
So
So
if Vikings win, we go to Vikings.
Okay, the main point of this section here, I just want to finish this up, is it's unanimous. Regardless who wins the Vikings Packers, we all think Washington right now is the hot team, and right now they've decided on what they're going to do as far as a running game. They decided that Kirk Cousins is the guy. RG3 didn't even suit up,
No.
so
I don't think he's even.
he's not,
he's not even active.
He is trade bait for next year.
Yes.
All right, Ian, who's your pick for the AFC?
Honestly, right now, after this week, I'm going to have to go with Denver. They brought in. Brett Osweiler was having a bad game, so they brought in his backup, some guy named Manning, and he proceeded to score on 4 of their first 5 possessions with him in the game.
Who's that guy?
Archie Manning?
Yeah, Archie Manning,
Okay.
his son or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a big fan of them. With you like Manning coming back?
Manning
rested.
coming back rested, fresh legs, fresh arm,
Attitude.
looked pretty good, fresh attitude, looking to go out in a blaze of glory. I'm thinking, and so I'm thinking they might make a charge and might go all the way this year.
So you have no feelings for Osweiler yet again being pushed to the background.
Osweiler's not very good.
But he's 6'11".
So what?
He
So he
hurts.
can see over the defensive line,
No.
unlike most every other quarterback.
You being a fellow tall man, it hurts more inside when
You have a bigger heart.
you have a bigger heart. Yeah. Matt? Who's your AFC team? Who do you think is the best of the bunch?
You know, I meant to look and see what the status is on Andy Dalton. If he can come back for, their matchup, I still like the Bengals. I don't care what anyone says. I still like the Bengals. I do have to agree though, a fresh arm and fresh legs, Peyton Manning is definitely scary in the playoffs.
So nobody is impressed by Tom Brady's 143 yards passing today.
Yeah. Speaking of fantasy, he
Okay,
just
and
torpedoed
losing-
my final this week.
and losing to the Miami
And
Dolphins.
losing to the Dolphins.
They don't have anyone left. They are absolutely on
Yeah.
life support.
Yeah.
They lost the last 2 games. They're
Yes.
done.
Yeah.
You
Brady
guys don't
needs
think-
Brady needs someone to throw to
You-
besides Gronkowski.
You guys
I
don't
mean,
think they're gonna cheat their way to another Super Bowl?
Well, they may cheat. I don't know if it'll be enough.
Sometimes you need actual players to go along
Yes,
with
so
the
you
team.
actually have to put a team on the field.
Ah,
and,
right. So we got Denver, we have the Bengals, and my pick, I'm actually more on the Denver side, not because of or Archie or whatever Manning's
Archie
left.
Manning, yes.
One of those mini Mannings.
Eli.
Manning. No. Peyton Manning. Not because of Peyton Manning, but that defense is amazing. That is a very good defense. I like them a lot. Best defense in the AFC. Maybe right up there with, Carolina Panthers and Arizona Cardinals. And, of course, our home squad, the Seattle Seahawks. This is going to be an interesting NFL playoffs for sure. Hopefully, not a disappointing one for us Seahawks fans. We're going to break.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, we're
Got
going
any
to break.
salt?
Don't knock on wood. But we don't.
There will be disappointment.
Welcome back to Seattle Sports Union's weekly live show, SSU Live. This segment is brought to you by Wisdom Within Radio. Lindsay Paul is our resident psychic, medium, spiritual healer, and friend, of course, to the SSU team. That's Lindsay Paul at wisdomwithinradio.com. Check her out. She really knows her stuff. All right, guys, I want to talk some college football, some college football playoffs, and more importantly, a certain bowl game called the Alamo Bowl. The Alamo Bowl was the site of the single greatest comeback in college football history, where the TCU Fighting Horned Frogs were down 31-0. And Oregon just gave it all away, Matt.
Yes,
they
they
just
did,
gave
Matt.
it away. They just let them have
They
the
just
game.
let it go.
How did that happen?
Well, two key players on offense went down.
Okay.
Vernon Adams Jr., who you obviously are very familiar with.
Big fan.
From Eastern Washington, graduate transfer. He's going to go in the probably 5th or 6th round of the NFL draft this year. He went down. He got a concussion, a severe concussion. He was not himself when he was walking off the field. But he was back on the sidelines later on with a headset looking good. But the key component turns out to have been our center. Our center went out. He was also a graduate transfer from a fifth year senior, coming from Notre Dame. He went out, and our backup decided not to be able to snap. He decided he was going to snap onto the ground. Probably about, of the 30 snaps he had left in the game, he probably snapped about 25 of them onto the ground. And our backup quarterback,
hyperbole is a fun.
Hyperbole.
It's a fun thing.
Our backup quarterback has never been as successful.
Jeff
at
Locke
managing.
is his name. Do you think Jeff Locke might not actually have returned to Eugene?
Jeff Locke will return he will return to Eugene, and he'll be the backup next year.
No, he might take online courses and go home to wherever he came
He
from.
might hide. No, he's not going to hide. He was Marcus Mariota's backup. He was the heir apparent. He lost out to Vernon Adams in a week. That's exactly how bad he is. Behind him is Taylor Alley, and Taylor Alley is our
Okay, well, we don't
quarterback.
need a recruiting trip through Oregon territory.
Either way,
let's go
without
ahead and
game
move on.
manager, shit happens.
I want to move on to the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl.
Oh god.
Christian McCaffrey got screwed in.
Yes, Christian McCaffrey should have won the Heisman.
Absolutely.
Period. The end.
Done.
He was an absolute beast in the Rose Bowl. He was returning punts. He was running the ball. He was catching the ball. I think he had touchdowns doing all three. And then, I mean, the guy's going to be an absolute stud, whatever position he ends up playing in the NFL. I mean, he's only a sophomore. The only reason he didn't win the Heisman, and I'm going to say this, is straight up SEC media bias, giving it to Derrick Henry from Alabama.
East
think
Coast
that's fair.
bias. He also broke Barry Sanders' single season all-purpose yardage.
And yes, I know Derrick Henry. He broke Herschel Walker's SEC rushing record this year, but I mean,
Doesn't matter.
Christian McCaffrey is an absolute machine, and I don't know how any team even contained him.
Well, the Pac-12 does this terrible
All
thing.
year.
Pac-12 plays games at 7 o'clock at night
Mhm.
on Saturdays. What
Pacific
Not
time.
just 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock Pacific. Pacific time.
Pacific time? Yeah.
I saw some at 7:45 last season.
We are all football fans, but honestly, if we lived in, Philadelphia, New York, whatnot, are we really watching games at 10 o'clock on
No.
a Saturday night?
No,
No.
No.
no, not even
No one
remotely.
is.
Family men are probably, taking
But-
care of the kids, and then single people are probably out partying, right?
Mhm.
But here's the thing: if you're a Heisman voter or a Heisman past trophy winner, so you also get a vote then, you should be doing your due diligence, and you should be hearing about this kid, and you should be going back and watching tape. You should be studying it up on him. You shouldn't be going, oh, well, I only saw this one guy play. You should be putting in the time. If the Heisman Trophy means anything to you at all, you should be putting in the due diligence and watching tape of these kids who play
At
for the White Scouts.
at the end of the day, the national media worships at the feet of Chris Saban, Alabama,
Nick
and the
Saban.
SEC. Nick Saban, sorry. Chris Saban, okay.
Yeah.
Nick Saban, Alabama, and the SEC conference as a whole. I mean, they're going to. when it's a tie and they can't decide, they're going to vote SEC.
It's a
Single
it's a bummer,
tie.
but it doesn't just happen in college football. It also happens in baseball Hall of Fame voting. I got to move on a little bit here, though. Let's get to the college football playoffs. There were two incredibly boring games.
Incredibly boring.
The Cotton Bowl, Alabama won 38-0, and it was a big win over Michigan State. But was this just the Big Ten had a lot of hype this year, or was this Alabama really good?
Big Ten was exposed.
Big Ten was exposed.
Big Ten was exposed straight up.
Disagree.
Okay, well let me start off with you. What did you see from Alabama?
I think Alabama looked good. Their front seven is very solid this year.
On defense.
On defense,
Yeah,
yes. And the offense is good enough. And I mean, I don't see any chance they actually lose the national championship. I think there might have been a couple other teams, if they were in there instead of Michigan State, might have given them more of a run for their money. Stanford, for instance. But on the whole, I think the way things go right now, Alabama look good enough that they're going to win this national championship.
Rebuttal. Why do you disagree that it wasn't about Michigan State and how bad they were?
Well, no,
I got to apologize. Just a quick interruption here. The number 3 seed, the Vikings, have won over the Packers.
So we're playing the Vikings?
We shall be playing
the Vikings in Minneapolis.
And we've done this before, and we did very well. So hopefully it goes as well as it did last time.
You bet. All right, I'm sorry. So now your rebuttal. Why didn't you think Michigan State was overhyped?
I didn't say Michigan State. I said he said the Big Ten was exposed. I don't think as a whole the conference was exposed by this game. I don't think as a whole the conference was overrated or anything like that.
Iowa in the Rose Bowl.
What's that?
Iowa in the Rose Bowl.
We had this discussion already.
Yeah.
Well, but you can also say Ohio State beat the ever-loving snuff out of
as
Florida,
anticipated.
right? And then you had Michigan win too.
Ohio State beat Notre Dame.
Or Notre Dame, that's what it was. Yeah, and Michigan won as well.
Beat Florida.
Not just beat them; they beat them down.
And as expected. I don't think Michigan State was ready for the game. Connor Cook is way better than that. And he's going to be a good NFL quarterback.
You bet. Okay, so guys, let's move on to the Orange Bowl. Another really boring blowout where Clemson, it started off kind of close, but Clemson started pulling away.
Third quarter,
37-17, big win over Oklahoma. This is this an indictment on the Big 12? Were they, overrated?
Well, they didn't play. The top teams in that conference didn't play each other until November. Baylor, Oklahoma State is what I'm talking about here. None of them actually ran into each other until November, so they all had these glorious records that they all faltered a bit down the stretch. But I think, the Big 12 is a little bit overrated this year.
One thing I do like about the Big 12, though, is unlike other conferences, every team plays every other team.
Yes.
You get like some semblance of yardstick, not like that Michigan State. Not playing anybody.
Or no, Iowa.
Yeah. Iowa not playing
Iowa
anybody.
didn't play Michigan State or Ohio State this year, or Wisconsin.
Somehow they lucked out.
We don't need to play them. Forget it.
It's not the team setting that. It's the conference setting that schedule.
Yeah.
So they just got lucky. Next year they'll play all 4 in a row or something like that, and they'll get destroyed.
What do you think about it? What do you think about Oklahoma, though?
I guess I was surprised. I thought Oklahoma was much better than they were. Clemson has never impressed me this year. During the ACC championship game, they had to basically have the refs cheat for them in order for them to pull that game off. I was very impressed with Clemson, and I guess Oklahoma really wasn't as good as that. Big 12, I think, was a little overrated.
So Clemson changed your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
If they're going to win the entire thing, they're going to win next week against Alabama, what does Clemson have to do?
Keep the ball in the quarterback's hands.
Quarterback's playmaker.
The quarterback is the playmaker. I'm blanking completely on his name right now.
I can't think of it either.
He finished number 3, I believe, in the Heisman voting. He was absolute force, and it's going to bother me.
But yeah, he was an absolute force in that game.
He's an incredible talent. Keep the ball in his hands. Protect him. Keep the ball, in his hands. Trust in him. That's really what they're going to have to do. Like you were saying about Alabama, Alabama has a really good defense. Their offense is absolutely just barely adequate.
So can Clemson shut down that offense?
If Clemson can shut down that offense, and if their offense can produce 20 points, I think they can pull this off.
What about you? Ian?
I don't think Clemson will generate 20 points. So Clemson ran for.
Oh, sorry,
300
Deshaun Watson.
There we
Yes.
go.
That's the quarterback for Clemson.
So Clemson ran for 300 yards in their game against
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the game against Oklahoma, that's just not going to happen against Alabama.
No,
Their front seven is just too good. I think you're right. If they score 20 points, they might win, but they're not going to score 20 points. It's going to end up like 21-17, something like that. I think Bama's going to pull it out. Yeah, and win the national championship. I think it'll be a good game though.
I do think it'll be better than the other two.
Yes, I think it'll be better than the other two.
Is the 4-team playoff really working?
No, it needs to be bigger.
It needs to be 8. It needs to be at least 8.
At least, I think it should be 16, honestly, and have a real tournament.
Honestly, I think Stanford, if it was an 8-player this team, I think Stanford would have gone all the way.
I think we should get rid of it. We should get rid of it and go back to the way it was
when no one knew who
the championship was. Every bowl game mattered.
If you're gonna have these playoffs, don't play them on freaking New Year's Eve when people are at work.
What was with that? What was with that? The first game, I missed it because I was at work on New Year's Eve.
And the second game, if it had been a
You were
good
at
game
home.
at
Come on.
11:30 Eastern on New Year's Eve, I mean, come on.
You were at work. You were at home, working from home.
Well, Brett Masker and I were working from home.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I was streaming it at work too.
Hopefully my boss is not watching.
Hi, boss.
Hi. He's not a Seahawks fan. It should be okay. No, I was working from home, but still, I don't have ESPN at my house, so it's I can't.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't watch it. So, but anyway, no, you're right. Total fail. Game should have been on Saturday, and you move those Saturday games to New Year's Day.
That's the other thing you mentioned. They're all on ESPN. I remember the days when all these games were on ABC and CBS. I mean,
You bet.
Why do I have to pay for the cable package
to watch a national semifinal playoff game?
It should be on national broadcast television. It should be on ABC.
You bet. I mean, ABC is owned by Disney, which is owned by
ESPN chose to not put it on their network. Yeah,
it should be on ABC and not on ESPN.
Well, there was a complete fail though when they did have the multiple channels. This was a week ago. UW and Wazoo played simultaneously on different channels.
Yep.
There's just no coordination or forethought. I know they're trying to get the maximum amount of East Coast viewers watching it.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it just doesn't. It doesn't jibe with what the average Joe does and how their workday works. It's kind of disappointing.
There were people in Times Square watching the game on their phones, watching the Bama game on their phones. It was just stupid. At 11 p.m. Eastern on New Year's Eve.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're not. You have to go to times. You have to be there. Yeah, well in advance. It doesn't make any sense. But you know what makes sense is maybe another break.
Okay.
All right. So it's time for our last break. When we return, we're gonna take a look at the teams here in Seattle and set some expectations for 20. What year is this? 2016. Stick around. We'll be right back. 2016.
I know, right?
Really? Not 19. Welcome back to the show. I'm Abraham DeWeese. That's at SSU_AbrahamD. With me are Matt Paige. That's at SSU_Matt P. And Ian Loney at SSU_IanL. All right, guys. we're going to take a look at all of our Seattle sports teams, and we're going to try to manage our expectations as to what we think they're going to do next year. Want to say a quick hello, though, first to professional DJ Steve. We know who you are.
It's Steve.
It's Steve. And anyway, Mr. Professional DJ Steve had a question for Matt about Oregon. Keep in mind, these shows are videotaped. You know, after we end our show here in about 15 minutes, you will be able to rewatch the part where Matt covered the Alamo Bowl. But do you think Oregon's going to do a lot better next year?
Going all the way. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
National championship.
Funny guy.
2016. Can happen.
He's only professional DJ 2000. He's only had one of these, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had too many. Yeah.
But let's.
Yeah, he actually believes that.
He actually believes it. Anyway, let's talk about Seahawks, guys. So let's finish off this year, and then I want to talk about next year.
All right.
Ian,
Yeah.
do they win the Super Bowl this year? At least get to the Super Bowl.
No. I think they're gonna they might even get past the divisional round. I think at best they make the NFC Championship and lose there. There's just three straight road games in the playoffs. Is just too many.
Do you see them reloading and making a run in 2016?
I think they're very well set up for next year. I think the offense, once it's healthy, going into next year, the offensive line will have a year under its belt of cohesiveness. I think they have a lot of good value on the offense side. The defense is signed long term for the most part. I mean, there are some issues to work out, but for the most part, the defense is signed long term. I think they're going to be very good next year.
Same set of questions, Matt. What do you think?
I'd say we're making to the NFC Championship game, and I'd put it at about 70% chance we go to the Super Bowl.
Still
Wow.
talking about the Seahawks, not Oregon Ducks.
Still talking about the Seattle
okay,
Seahawks.
good. Just wanted to make sure.
Your Seattle Seahawks and mine and his. We're dangerous. We are absolutely dangerous. We can outplay anyone in the league on any given day. The Carolina Panthers, we just beat the Arizona Cardinals. I know they didn't really show up, but we have a history against them. We know how to deal with them. The Carolina Panthers we played earlier in the year, and that was one of those games we lost by like that much.
Mm-hmm.
One of those games, the 2-4 start you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think if this team shows up ready to play like we showed up today, every game, we're unstoppable.
We, it's kind of like you flip a coin. Which team is this? Which team is the Seahawks team that we're going to see?
Yep.
You take a look at, like you said, that Carolina game. That was just a miscommunication between Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas. That should have been a win.
Yeah,
for
it was
the
one
Seahawks.
play. It was one play.
One play.
But then what about the Rams last week? I mean, what if that team shows
Yeah,
up?
what if
I
that
mean,
team shows up? Then it's like,
the
who knows?
Rams have already been eliminated.
Yeah.
They finished the season 7-9.
We don't have to deal with them until next year.
So
God.
it's okay. We're fine. Our kryptonite has been eliminated. We're okay.
But I think the management and the way this team is set up is set for a run. I'd love to see them go ahead and get some actual offensive linemen and get this thing on a roll. Guys, Seattle Mariners, we got our two baseball editors here. I want to ask you, what do you expect, Matt? What do you expect, and what do you want to see out of this team?
I'm expecting wild card. Wild card from wild card playoff spot. I think we'll win the one game. They do 1 game playoff now, and then you go into the actual like wild card series or whatever it is. Maybe it's divisional series. Divisional series after that. Yeah. I think we'll actually win that and go to the divisional series. I think what we're gonna see this year is we're gonna see a completely different team from last year. We're gonna see some key components, but we're gonna see actual defense being played, and we're going to see some stress put on speed on the base pass. We're going to see going back to small ball. We're going to see a lot more success and a team that's better designed for our field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. DePoto has really put together a team that's built for Safeco Field, which we haven't really seen since the good old days of 2001, 2002.
Yeah,
where you have good defense in the outfield to run down all those fly balls. It helps it makes the pitching look better because there's people actually catching the ball out there. I mean, there's guys that get on base, they draw walks, they're not just up there swinging for fences.
Ian, what do you expect to see?
I think yeah, a 90+ win team, wild card run. If they were in a weaker division, I think they'd win their division. But the AL West is going to be really good next year. So you got the Astros, the Angels, yeah.
So neither of you are concerned that orders from up high yet again asked for Iwakuma to be back on the team.
No.
That was not a Jerry Dipoto decision.
That is not a problem at all.
That is not a problem at all. I guarantee you they know exactly what's going on with Iwakuma, and they wouldn't have made the deal if
Yeah,
they didn't
they
know.
and it's all
I'm
incentive
worried, I'm laden, incentive laden. I agree, but let me just say this: I am worried that the same thing that has always happened with this team under the Howard Lincoln fascist regime.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's not fascist.
Howard,
It's
it's
not
okay.
fascist,
We're
but
not.
it is a regime.
We don't
It is
really.
a regime.
We like you, Howard.
We like you guys. We like you guys. Actually, I really like Jerry Dipoto, but I'm worried that there's some meddling going on, and that makes me nervous. But the good news is, you're right. It's an incentive-laden contract. Very smart by Jerry Dipoto. It's 1 year with options.
It can vest all the way to be the equal of the deal that he would have had with the Dodgers. And the other thing is that the plus side of it is that they went to ownership. Ownership granted they're already at the cap at that point.
Yeah, the
Ownership
limit.
granted the more money to be spent on him. Which means ownership is actually open to spending some more money.
Well, let me tell you guys this. Even though I'm a little bit worried about that Iwakuma signing, AL West win.
Wow.
I'm calling it.
Really?
Yeah. You want
prediction?
You want to put 5 shekels on it?
5 shekels?
No, because I think they have a reasonable shot at it.
Okay,
Honestly.
all right.
Three bottle caps?
3 bottle caps.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, it's 3 bottle caps.
3 bottle
How
caps.
do we fall out?
Yeah, I got answers. I really, I like this new century thinking by Jerry Dipoto. That one issue aside, I like the way that he has decided, like you said, he's going to build a defense in the outfield.
Yeah.
Like you said, get that pitching right. Love it. I love it. I love it. AL West is my expectation. I mean, I'll take a wild card too.
Well,
I'm totally cool with the wild
card. We're no
card.
longer trying to shove a square peg through a round hole, which is what our last GM was trying to do.
You bet. Okay, let's move on to the Seattle Sounders, our own local soccer squad. Ian, what are your expectations out of them this year?
I honestly don't know right now. They haven't made their big moves yet because the international January transfer window is about to start here in a couple weeks, and that's where we're really going to find out the changes. The word is there's going to be some big changes. It sounds like they might even be changing their base formation from the 4-4-2 they've been running to a 4-3-3.
Wait, that's not what Ziggy does though.
With Valdez, Dempsey, and Oba, they better be running a 4-3-3.
They better be. They have the team to do it. Yeah, I agree.
Their personnel is definitely that of a 4-3-3 type of look, and they started drifting that way in late in the season this year too. I think that's what's going to happen. How they fill out the personnel on that is anyone's guess. I think there's going to be like at least 3, maybe 4 new starters come opening day that we didn't see last year.
Let's say you live in a world of stasis though, and you had to make a projection. What would you think?
They're certainly a playoff team. They're probably top 2 or 3 in the West. Playoffs, they have to figure out the bugaboo. They have to figure out how to get it done in the playoffs. Hopefully they'll be younger this year. That's a big part of the moves they're making. They've got Ozzy Alonso on the trading block, lots of other things. Yeah. They're looking to get younger. Hopefully that means they don't run out of gas like they did against Dallas in the playoffs this year, and they'll do better in the playoffs. So I think
so. More of what they're already doing.
More of what they're already doing. Yes.
What do you think, Matt?
I have to agree completely on the getting younger part. We have to get younger. We have to get some fresh legs, some more energy out there. Watching them play Dallas was kind of sad.
No, nobody had energy.
No one was really out there.
In the extra time, especially
in the extra time towards the end of the game, it was lackadaisical. It was the Arizona Cardinals today.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, it was like no one really wanted to be there. And
so what do you expect?
I expect them, in theory, to do that a little bit more and to continue along that path, which they've already shown they kind of want to do. So yeah, playoff team. I don't know if they'll go all the way.
I say Western
So
Conference Finals.
more of the same.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Probably about the same level of this year.
It's not a terrible thing. I mean, it's not terrible.
No, you really can't complain
to the
too much.
playoffs.
I want the hardware, but
what really sucks. I mean, the real big sucker punch was the Timbers getting the cup, because all of us here know Timbers fans, and none of us want to have to face them next time we have to meet them. And it's just it sucks because we have these superior athletes.
Yeah,
they have
team.
the superior team.
Yeah.
No, I'd say we have the superior individual pieces, but like their team has been playing for a long time together, and they know each other's intricacies, and they more importantly know how to defeat us. and that sucks. But anyway, I think the Sounders with under Gareth Lagerwey are going to do well, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I think this year is going to be Ziggy's last year,
Transition.
and it's going to be a fizzle out in the early round of the playoffs.
It's going to be a transition year, yeah.
All right, guys, let's go to the University of Washington Huskies. Matt, what do you see out of Chris Peterson and his two freshmen, one now to be sophomores?
Well, is Mickens?
Jadon Mickens is gone. He's a senior.
He's a senior?
I'm talking about Miles Gaskin, the running back.
Yeah, I know
and
Miles and Jake Browning.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 9 wins.
9 wins? Okay.
9, maybe 10. Maybe 10. I don't know what your non-conference schedule looks like.
Cupcakes.
Okay, well then, yeah, maybe then 10. I'll say 10.
It's pretty soft. It's pretty SEC laden.
It's gonna be
Idaho.
a rough season in the next year in the Pac-12 North with Stanford coming down from having to make an adjustment, but they'll still have probably McCaffrey. With Oregon reloading, with Cal still coming up, even though they're losing Goff. With Wazoo, with Luke Falk, who is probably a Heisman candidate. It's going to be a brutal year.
Wait, I thought McCaffrey was a redshirt sophomore. Isn't he going to the NFL?
He might be.
No, I don't think he's eligible.
He might
not be. Okay,
I don't know.
right.
I don't know the status is on him 100%.
I heard he was a sophomore, so
Okay.
but I think he's only 19.
What do you see out of the Huskies there, Ian?
I think the Huskies. I say 8 wins. Part of it because their conference schedule, like I said, it's gonna be brutal.
It's going to be one of those very good 8-win teams, right?
They're still a little young. Another year of experience won't hurt. I think they're going to look a lot next year like the Cougars look this year. The Cougars were an 8-win team in the regular season. They won their bowl game, but they were an 8-win team in the regular season. They came very close in a couple games. They could have easily been a 9 or 10-win team, but they ended up at 8. I think that's where the Huskies will end up next year.
Okay. I got them about 8-9 wins also. The problems next year are going to be against the Oregons and the Wazoos of the world that want to win those games at all costs. It's going to be that Stanford team that just basically bullied everybody. It's going to be the Utahs of the world and USC's and UCLA. There is a Pac-12 right now where
There's no.
The only cupcake is Colorado.
Maybe Oregon State.
Oregon State, I guess, yeah.
But I mean, you had 10 teams go to bowl games. Holy cow! It's gonna be tough to get to 10 wins. I would say 8 wins is gonna be good enough to get a really nice looking bowl. 10 wins, gets them into a New Year's Eve or New Year's Day bowl. All right, guys, let's get on to our last team, the Wazoo Cougars. Their football team did it this year, 10 wins, and then got to a Sun Bowl and won against a major power, the University of Miami. What do you think, Ian? What do you like out of the Cougars?
Like Matt said, Luke Falk was phenomenal this year. If he's not a Heisman candidate coming into next season, then people don't know what they're talking about. The guy led the league in passing this year. I mean, he was just an absolute stud. You could see the difference when he wasn't in there when the Apple Cup.
Right. Well, I mean that's.
But yeah, I think they're a 10-win regular season team next year. I think they're right there with Stanford. Remember, they almost beat Stanford this year. I think they're right there with Stanford in the Pac-12 North to win the whole thing next year, and possibly even a Rose Bowl.
What you got for the Cougars there, Matt?
I'm gonna go with 9 wins. Honestly, I think it's gonna be the Washington teams on top of the Pac-12 North next year. They are the two deepest and they've got a great core. Wazoo is, Luke Falk out of his mind. Really, really great quarterback. Finally got the wideouts. Finally got the running backs that can run when they need to, even though they don't want to run. They still average 6 yards per carry when they do run, which is really strange to me. But maybe it's because they're passing so much. No one expects it. But they finally. Mike Leach has found his groove, and he's now going to just keep chugging along. And at 9 wins, I think it's very attainable for them.
Excellent. That's kind of what I have as well. I just want to say, it might be one of those weird scenarios where you have 4 teams in the Pac-12 North, all with 2 losses within the conference or more. And it's going to be fun Pac-12. It's going to be a fun Pac-12 next year. But it's about all time we have today. And I want to thank Matt Paige and I want to thank Ian Loney for their expert commentary during our show today. And a big thanks to Bob and Kevin back there for another fine show. Check us out on seattlesportsunion.com for all of our great commentary articles. Watch us here on YouTube for all of our videos. Join us during games at Seattle Sports U on Twitter. And of course, like us on Facebook. Just look for us. Like us. Aren't we likable?
I think
think
we
so.
are.
All right. Well, I was your host, Abraham DeWeese. We'll see you next week.